My job is to maintain the old warning signs in the Great Smoky Mountains. The warnings aren't for the bears. Welcome to the Wilderness Protocol. Every year millions of people come to the Great Smoky Mountains to see the sweeping vistas, the rolling blue fog that gives this place its name. They follow the well-marked trails, read the informational plaques, and heed the warnings on the brightly colored signs. They see signs for bear safety, for treacherous cliffs, for sudden weather changes. They think they understand the dangers. They see the teeth, but they don't see the smile behind them. My name is Silas. For 37 years, my official job title was Trail Maintenance Supervisor for the park's more remote sectors. It's a lie. My real job, the one passed down to me and the one I passed down to the poor soul who took my place, was to maintain the old signs. The ones made of dark, weathered wood and hand-painted letters. The ones whose warnings have nothing to do with bears. This is my final report. And it's a warning of its own. I took the job when I was a young man, not much older than 25. I was drawn to the solitude, the quiet dignity of working with my hands in the heart of one of the oldest mountain ranges on Earth. I thought I'd be clearing fallen trees, shoring up trails, maybe building the occasional footbridge. The man I trained under was named Hemmings. He was a whisper of a man, thin and wiry, with a face so creased and weathered it looked like a map of the very trails we walked. On my first day, he didn't hand me a chainsaw or a shovel. He led me to a dilapidated old shed at the edge of the maintenance yard, a place the other crews seemed to avoid instinctively. The air inside was thick with the smell of turpentine, linseed oil, and something else, something sharp and metallic like old blood or rust. It was cold iron. "This is your workshop," Hemmings said, his voice a dry rustle of leaves. "And these are your duties." He didn't point to a list of tasks. He pointed to a stack of old, dark wooden signs leaning against the wall. The letters were hand-painted in a faded white that seemed to glow faintly in the gloom. They looked ancient. One read, "Beware of sudden fog. Do not leave the path." Another, "Quiet zone. Do not whistle or sing on this trail." A third, and perhaps the strangest one, "If you see another hiker, ensure they cast a shadow." My job is to repaint these? I asked, confused. "Maintain them," he corrected, his voice sharp. "You maintain them where they stand. You keep the letters clear. You replace the posts if they rot. But most importantly, you make sure the warnings are never ever ignored. You are a gatekeeper, son, not a carpenter." He showed me the materials I was to use. The paint wasn't standard outdoor latex. It was a thick, viscous mixture he kept in an old ceramic jug. He told me it was infused with powdered salt and silver. The wood treatment wasn't creosote. It was a dark, pungent oil that he said contained tinctures of rowan and ash. And the nails used to fix the signs to their posts were not steel. They were hand-forged, pitted cold iron. "The Park Service gives us a budget for this," he said, tapping a dusty ledger. "They call it historical preservation. They don't ask what's in the paint. It's an arrangement, a quiet agreement that's kept this park safe since the Civilian Conservation Corps first cut the trails." Over the next few weeks, he took me out on the trails. Not the main tourist paths, but the old, overgrown service trails, the ones that wound deep into the hollows and up to the silent, fog-shrouded peaks. It was on one of these trips that he finally explained what the signs were for. We were standing in front of one. "Do not answer if you hear your name called from the trees." It was posted at the entrance to a narrow, dark hollow, where the air was noticeably colder and the trees grew too close together. "You think these mountains are just rock and dirt?" Hemmings asked, his eyes fixed on the dark opening of the hollow. "They're not. They're old. They have a memory. And they have a voice. Or rather, they have voices." "What are you talking about, Hemmings?" "I'm talking about the fog," he said, turning to face me. "The smoke that gives this place its name. It's not just water vapor, son. It's a medium. It's a stage. And when it gets thick, things can cross over. Things that are lonely. things that used to be people and things that never were. They are mimics. They are echoes. And they are hungry. He tapped the sign with a gnarled finger. They don't have voices of their own. Not really. But they can listen. They can learn. They can take a sound you mock, a whistle, a song, the sound of your own name spoken by a friend, and they can wear it like a coat. They'll use it to lure you off the path, into the fog, into the deep woods where time doesn't work right. They'll call to you in a voice you trust. And if you answer, he trailed off, his gaze returning to the hollow. Well, then they have you. They have your voice to add to their collection. A chill that had nothing to do with the mountain air traced a cold path down my spine. And the other signs? The shadows. They can make themselves look like people, he said simply. A lost hiker, a friendly face. But they're imperfect copies, hastily made. They haven't figured out the light yet. They don't cast a proper shadow. Sometimes no shadow at all. It's the one thing they can't seem to get right. So the signs, they aren't warnings about the woods, I said, a dawning horror creeping into my voice. They are warnings about what is in the woods. Exactly, Hemming said, giving me a rare, grim smile. The signs are the protocol. They are the rules of engagement for a war no one knows we're fighting. Our job isn't to win. Our job is to maintain the stalemate, to keep the boundaries clear, to remind the few who wander this far what not to do. The bears and the cliffs, they'll just kill you. These things, they'll erase you. For years, that's what I did. I was a quiet, solitary man performing a quiet, solitary, and utterly insane task. I would hike for days into the backcountry, my pack filled not with survival gear, but with jars of strange paint and bundles of iron nails. I would find the old signs, some so covered in moss they were nearly invisible. I would scrape them clean, carefully repaint the faded white letters, and hammer them back into place with the cold, dead thud of the iron. I never saw anything. Not for a long time. I heard things, though. On still, quiet days, I'd hear a snatch of a song I was just thinking about, drifting from a distant ridge. I'd hear a perfect imitation of a hawk's cry, but see only empty sky. Once I thought I heard a woman laughing, the sound clear as a bell, in a place where no human being had been for 50 years. I learned to ignore them. I learned to keep my head down, do my work, and stay on the path. I was the keeper of the warnings. I was a janitor for the border between worlds. I became comfortable. I became complacent. And that is when the forest decided to remind me of the stakes. Her name was Clara. She was a botany student from a university back east, here on a grant to study a rare species of orchid that grew only in the highest, most remote elevations of the Smokies. She was smart, experienced, and had all the right gear. She checked in with the ranger station, filed her backcountry itinerary, and was supposed to be out for 5 days. When she didn't return on the 6th day, we weren't overly concerned. Weather could have delayed her. But by the 8th day, a full-scale search was launched. They searched the areas on her itinerary for 3 days. They found nothing. Not a footprint, not a discarded wrapper. It was as if she had simply evaporated from the face of the mountain. The search commanders with their GPS units and satellite phones were baffled. I was not. I looked at the map of her planned route. It skirted the edge of a region we called the Quiet Zone, an area notorious for its sudden, thick fogs and its strange, disorienting acoustics. An area littered with my old, dark signs. On the 4th day of the search, I went to the incident commander. I told him I was going to check some of the old, unlisted trails in that sector. He looked at me like I was a relic, but he was desperate, so he agreed. "Just take a radio, Silas," he said. "And for God's sake, don't get yourself lost." I didn't take a radio. I knew it wouldn't work where I was going. I took my pack, my jars, my nails, and I went alone. The moment I stepped onto the old trail leading into the Quiet Zone, the air changed. The familiar sounds of the forest, the insects, the birds, the rustle of squirrels faded away. leaving behind a heavy, waiting silence. The air grew cool and damp, and the sunlight seemed to struggle to pierce the thick canopy of the ancient trees. About a mile in, I found the first sign of trouble. It was one of mine. Quiet zone. Do not whistle or sing on this trail. The sign itself was intact, but someone had taken a rock and smashed the post, knocking it to the ground. It was an act of modern arrogance. Some hiker, probably Clara, annoyed by the strange, seemingly pointless rule, had taken out her frustration on it. I sighed a weary, sad sound. She didn't know. She couldn't have known she wasn't just breaking a piece of wood. She was breaking a treaty. I set to work. I dug a new hole, set the post, and carefully re-nailed the sign with the cold iron nails. As I worked, I felt it. A sense of being watched. A prickling on the back of my neck that was as old as mankind. I didn't look up. I focused on my task. I repainted a small chip in the letter Q. Maintain the stalemate, Hemmings had always said. When I was done, I stood and surveyed my work. The sign was upright again, its warning clear. But the damage had been done. The invitation had been issued. I followed the trail deeper. A quarter of a mile later, I found her pack. It was leaning against a tree, one strap unbuckled. Her expensive camera was still inside. Her water bottle was still half full. She hadn't been robbed. She had simply set her things down and walked away. I looked around. To the right was the faint trail. To the left, the unbroken, tangled wilderness. And from the wilderness I heard a sound. A faint, beautiful humming. It was a simple, lovely tune. The kind of absent-minded melody someone might hum to themselves on a long, lonely walk. My blood ran cold. The humming was familiar. It was an old folk song, one I hadn't heard in years. It was the same song that had been playing on the car radio the day I drove up to the mountains for the very first time. It knew me. It had been listening. I fought the urge to follow the sound. Instead, I forced myself to examine the ground. And I found them. Her footprints leading off the trail into the woods. And next to them, another set of prints. They were indistinct, blurry, like a bare foot with no defined toes. Just a smooth, vaguely human shape pressed into the soft earth. I followed the tracks, my hand resting on the handle of the small hatchet I carried on my belt. Every instinct, every year of my training was screaming at me to turn back. But she was a lost girl. It was my job. The tracks led me to a small hidden clearing. A perfect circle of unnaturally green grass, surrounded by a ring of silent gray birches. In the center of the clearing sat Clara. She was sitting on the ground, her back to me, facing an ancient moss-covered boulder. She was humming that same tune, her voice soft and clear. She seemed perfectly content. She was not lost. She was home. I stopped at the edge of the clearing, hidden behind a tree. I watched her for a full minute. She didn't move, just kept humming, her fingers tracing patterns on the surface of the great stone. I should have left. I should have turned around, hiked back out, and reported that she was gone. I should have honored the protocol. But I was still that young man deep down. I still believed in rescue. I took a breath. Clara! I called out, my voice sounding like a gunshot in the still air. The humming stopped. She turned her head slowly, her neck seeming to rotate just a little too far. She looked at me. It was her face, her blonde hair, her blue eyes. But there was no recognition in them. There was no fear, no relief. There was only a placid, terrifying emptiness. And she smiled. A smile that did not touch her eyes. "You're not supposed to be here," she said, her voice a perfect imitation of her own, but hollow, flat like a recording. "This is a quiet place." "I'm here to take you home, Clara," I said, taking a step into the clearing. Her smile widened. "But I am home." She patted the great stone beside her. "We are home." And that's when I saw the sign, propped against the boulder in front of her. It was another one of mine, an old one I hadn't had a chance to maintain yet. The letters were faded, barely legible, but I could still make them out. If you see another hiker, ensure they cast a shadow. I looked at Clara. The sun was filtering through the trees, casting dappled light on the grass. I had a shadow. The trees had shadows. The great boulder had a shadow. Clara did not. My hand went to my hatchet. The thing wearing Clara's face saw the movement. Its smile never wavered. "You're late, Silas," it said, its voice still a perfect copy of the girl's. "The song is almost over." And then from all around the clearing, the humming started again. It wasn't just one voice now. It was a chorus. A dozen, then 100 humming that same simple folk tune. The sound didn't come from the trees. It came from the air itself. It pressed in on me, vibrating in my teeth, in my bones. The Clara thing stood up. It moved with a smooth, gliding motion that was deeply, horribly wrong. "Don't you want to join us?" it asked. "It's so peaceful here. No more pain. No more memories. Just the song." It took a step towards me. I took a step back. "What did you do with her?" I growled, raising the hatchet. The thing laughed, a high, tinkling sound that was the opposite of Clara's voice. "We didn't do anything. She was singing. It was a lovely tune. She offered it to us. And we gave her a gift in return. We gave her silence." The humming grew louder, more insistent. My head started to spin. The edges of my vision began to go dark. The world was dissolving into sound. I remembered Hemming's last, desperate piece of advice, something he'd told me after a few too many whiskeys one night. "If you're ever truly caught, son, if you've broken every rule in the book and they're coming for you, you don't fight them. You don't run. You give them what they want. You give them a better song." It was insane. It was the rambling of a drunk old man. But it was all I had left. I closed my eyes. I shut out the sight of the shadowless girl, the humming chorus, the wrongness of the clearing. I reached deep inside myself, past the fear, past the grief for my wife, past the lonely years. I found the one sound that was purely mine, a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. I opened my mouth and I screamed. It wasn't a word. It was a raw, primal, ugly noise. A sound of defiance. A sound of pain. A sound of a man refusing to be silenced. The humming stopped. Instantly. I opened my eyes. The Clara thing was standing in front of me, its head cocked, its empty smile gone. Its face was now a mask of confusion. My scream, my ugly human noise had broken its beautiful, perfect song. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't give it time to learn. I turned and ran from the clearing, my own scream still echoing in my ears. I didn't follow the path. I just ran, crashing through the forest, branches whipping my face, my lungs on fire. Behind me I heard a new sound. A shriek. A sound of pure, frustrated rage. It was a cacophony of all the voices it had ever stolen, all screaming at once. It was the sound of a spoiled child whose toy had been broken. And it was coming after me. The fog rolled in. Sudden, thick, and unnaturally white. It swallowed the forest in seconds. I couldn't see more than 5 feet in front of me. I was running blind, the shrieking getting closer. Beware of sudden fog. Do not leave the path. I had left the path. I was in its world now, the rules of my world no longer applied. I stumbled, my foot catching on a root, and fell hard. I rolled over, gasping for breath, and saw a shape coalescing in the fog in front of me. It was tall and thin, made of the fog itself, but with a dark, vaguely human silhouette at its core. I scrambled backwards, but there was nowhere to go. The shrieking stopped, replaced by a single familiar voice, whispered right beside my ear. It was Hemming's voice. "You should have left her, son," it rasped. "You should have maintained the stalemate." The shape in the fog reached for me. It didn't have hands, just tendrils of white mist that solidified as they grew closer. I was done for. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end, and then I heard another voice. My own. "Get up, Silas." I opened my eyes. Standing between me and the fog thing was a figure. It was me. An exact double, wearing the same clothes, the same worn expression. But he was solid. And he cast a shadow, a long dark shape on the misty ground. "You're not real," I whispered. My double didn't look at me. He looked at the fog thing. "He's right," my double said, his voice calm and steady. "I'm not. But neither are you. You're just an echo. And I'm a louder one." My double took a step forward. The fog thing recoiled, hissing. "This one isn't for you," my double said. "He still has work to do. He has signs to maintain. Go find another singer." The fog thing let out one last, frustrated shriek, and then dissolved, the thick mist dissipating as quickly as it had come. The forest was suddenly clear again. The sun was shining. I looked at my double. He turned to face me, and for the first time I saw his eyes. They were my eyes, but they were old, ancient, and filled with a profound sadness. What are you?" I asked. "I'm the part of you that understands this place," he said. "The part that knows the rules. The part you've been ignoring." He raised a hand and pointed back the way I had come. "The path is that way. Stay on it this time." He turned and began to walk away, not into the woods, but into the trunk of a massive oak tree, his form seeming to merge with the bark until he was gone. I didn't question it. I got to my feet and I walked. And just as he had promised, the trail was there. I followed it for hours, not stopping, not looking back. By nightfall, I was back at my truck, safe. The official report states that Clara Hayes's body was never found. She is another one of the hundreds of people who have vanished without a trace in the Great Smoky Mountains. Her parents were told she likely fell into a ravine or was taken by a bear. A tragic accident. But I know the truth. She is not dead. She is in the quiet zone. She is sitting in the green clearing, humming her song to the great stone, a placid, empty smile on her face. She is one of them now. She is part of the song of the mountains. I still maintain the signs. It's my penance. My duty. I make sure the letters are bright, the posts are strong. I am more careful than ever. Because I learned that the warnings aren't just for the tourists who stumble into the deep woods. They're for the things that are already there. They are a reminder of the boundaries. A reminder that we are the visitors, that we are the ones who are out of tune. And that if we sing the wrong song, the forest will gladly teach us a new one. And you will sing it forever, in the endless quiet fog. Thank you for receiving this report from the Wilderness Protocol. The world is full of beautiful, empty places that are best viewed from a distance. Their silence is not an invitation. If you value these warnings and wish to be notified of future protocols, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your attention helps us map the boundaries. Until next time, stay on the path. And do not sing in the quiet places. You might get an answer.